If he had not come, we would not be saying thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an extremely fractured government, the likes of which we have not seen in our government since the Civil War. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could tell you there was some good news on Capitol Hill, but I want you to know there's good news in the land with Jesus Christ. It's not on Capitol Hill. We have now seen that we conclude the year of our Lord of 2023. We have seen some things unprecedented. We went 20 days without a Speaker of the House. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. This is the first time in our nation's history we went 3 weeks without the equal co-branch of government's head in position. Now, why is that so important? Because in the order of succession, if something happens to the president, the vice president steps up. And if the vice president is unable to fulfill the duties, then the Speaker of the House, not the head of the Senate, but the Speaker of the House, for the Republican Party to hold back and not appoint a speaker because their caucus is so raucous and has so much chaos and confusion, that tells you our government is in peril as we speak. After the conclusion of the new year and we return back to Washington, D.C., look out, around Martin Luther King's birthday Monday holiday, on that January 19th, we will have to go back and vote immediately to fulfill the funding of our government. Our government will run out of the funding it needs by January 19th because of our appropriation process. That is the duty and responsibilities of the Congress, is to be the appropriators. We appropriate, we authorize the spending of the money. The president can suggest it, but the Congress is the one that authorizes it. The Supreme Court is the one that can say whether or not it's being implemented or promulgated or discussed appropriately. But that is our job, is to be the appropriators. Let me make one point on this war that's going on. We are going under something that's unprecedented. We talk about AUMs, the authorized use of our military. The Congress is supposed to discuss and have debates on what are we doing as far as military and war. These should not be unilateral decisions made by the President of the United States to circumvent, to go around the body of our government that is the Congress. So if I want to raise the question about Israel and our spending and our funding, they've not lost a tank, they've not lost an aircraft, they've cut the water off and the electricity. The babies in Gaza are dying. Are we engaged in a war, yes or no? When I hear that we have military bases all throughout Syria and our troops could potentially be in harm's way, and I care about each and every one of our service members that have volunteered to serve in our United States Army. Now they're being put on land abroad and hostile and don't even have medical care for their own families at home. I have concerns about the spending of our monies. Our budget is $886 billion in our Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has never passed an audit in the last 6 times. So as they continue to ask for increases, where's the accountability? And then the other part, when we are spending now under our internal surveillance, follow me. We have created the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11. This is the problem with this job. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and think about, what did I just hear? What did I just read? Why can't I sleep tonight? 19 people hijacked some planes, 4 planes, and went into Pennsylvania, the Pentagon, and 2 into the New York City financial towers. 19 people. 20 years later, we're spending $103 billion a year annually for TSA and Homeland Security. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to correct a world that's gone wrong and get back to peace as a possibility. But as my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, has oftentimes told me, peace is only possible if you believe. Some people don't believe in peace. So when you stand up and you say, cease fire, Reverend Wiley, I didn't think I was qualified to do this job when I thought about my resume. I went to business school. I didn't go to law school. I hadn't been in the state legislature. I said, why would I try to be in Congress? But then I've known enough people in the Congress. And I did not know that the Lord was preparing me for such a time as this. I might not have gone to law school, but if you sit and you travel and your father's the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and you go see President Hafez Assad, and you see him bring back Lieutenant Robert Goodman, I said, that's a level of preparation. When you see that President George H. Bush is now talking to Saddam Hussein, and you've been in the room with President Saddam Hussein, when people were held captive, when people were held hostage, and you see your father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, bring back 400 human shields, you say that's a level of preparation. When you see Fidel Castro, that they said you can't talk to, and they said he had prisoners, and you see your father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, go down to Havana, Cuba, sit down with President Fidel Castro, who says he wanted to be a minister, but when he needed the church, Reverend Brown, the church turned its back on him. So he had to go and confront the church. And you see your father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, bring back people that the United States government said they could not relieve, and he made the captives come free. You say that's the level of preparation. Lord, have mercy. Dad, thank you for preparing me for such a time and such a work as this. And I understand that you don't need to go to law school to be a legislator. I asked my father one time, Dad, why didn't you go to law school? He says, I wanted to, but then I started talking to Dr. Samuel Proctor. And he says, Reverend Jackson, you need to understand the ministry, because the ministry is bigger than the law school. I find myself leaning on my Bible more than I could ever need to be a person that went to law school. So when they say study war no more, it's in the book. When they say blessed are the peacemakers, it's in the book. Not the blessed are the peacekeepers, but the peacemakers, those that are willing to keep a clean heart but get dirty hands, trying to reconcile people, and therefore they have the moral authority to say, cease fire. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend and yours, we've got a preacher today from the 2nd Street Baptist Church of Maywood, Illinois, that will give us our word for the day. We're going to keep on fighting in Washington, D.C. I'm going to ask you to keep on holding us in prayer. And one part of my Christmas blessing already came true. I saw this week in the city of Chicago, and all I wanted for Christmas was the captive to be set free. I want to thank our own self's district attorney, Kim Foxx. Since she's been in office, 300 innocent people have now been set free. This past week, when I cried, when I read the paper, and I saw Brother Jimmy Soto and David Ayala, a brother and a cousin, that served 42 years each in the state of Illinois, they have been set free. Thank you, Kim Foxx, for the Christmas present that I wanted.